Back to the Overwatch Open. It is Dorado, the first map between ENVYUS and SELFLESS, and we didn't really paint a good picture for SELFLESS. CP, we tried to find some light at the end of the tunnel, but I don't know.
It's rough. The odds are absolutely rough. We'd be doing it to serve, so we told you, no, SELFLESS is going to come in. They're the super underdogs, but if they do actually pull that Cinderella story and put ENVYUS on the ropes, it would be absolutely amazing. So for those who are tuned in and watch right now, that is what we must hope for as we look at that joyous Diablo Pinata.
So where do you think they could get it done? You know, where would be some good spots, you know, during Dorado to find some edges, do you think, against ENVYUS?
I would say the biggest thing is try and punish some of the DPS that get a little bit over aggro at times. Like if you can leap in on Taimu, take him out. ENVYUS, it's much harder for them to win fights when they're down a key DPS. The problem with ENVYUS, though, is that it doesn't work out quite as well as other teams because Tailspin, of course, is also a premium DPS. It's not quite a mechanic as some teams have where there's one great DPS player and then the other one's just okay. ENVYUS has threats on all fronts.
All right, well, it looks like ENVYUS will be, of course, attacking first and starting to move forwards with the payload towards that arch into the, towards the market. And just Zenyatta throwing out some shots there as you can see that SELFLESS is very cognizant of Taimu here. He's actually doing some great damage. That's a nice pick to start things off with.
Taimu's able to get that first pick. It's going to be a 6v5 now as they move forward. And this is just casual stuff for Envy, but it's a 6v4 and the defense is already on the ropes. Taimu got pile on. That's 2 kills for Taimu there. Tailspin and Coco going to get in, and that is going to be clean and easy for Envy. A very quick first point capture.
ZP, that snowballed very quickly after Taimu just... The thing is that he got in there, he maybe had enough time. If he was going to make a kill, it would take like 2 or 3 shots, and he hit every single one of those shots flawlessly, and then that was just it, the snowball effect.
And you were asking earlier, what can SELFLESS do to sort of get in on Envy? Well, Taimu did overextend a little bit to do that, but he's so good in terms of aiming that your window to punish him is very short, and if he gets what he's looking for, you're probably going to lose the fight because he just took out a big DPS.
Absolutely, and something that's been, I think, is an interesting talking point from a metagame perspective is how you handle this high ground on the defense. And right now, there's not a lot for SELFLESS to work with from an ultimate perspective when they want to go for the drop. So how are they going to manage this one?
Yeah, I mean, they don't have a whole lot of resources here as Taimu continues picking them apart. It's 2 kills for Taimu there. Coco falling through. Right now for SELFLESS, they have to back out and regroup right now, Dan, because really, they are getting absolutely hammered. They have to hope that their respawns come back in time that they can hold on second, but it's looking grim, and look at how far up Taimu is right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he obviously feels so much liberty, the ability to just push all the way up. And as you said, it's very hard to punish him, so he has the skill to do that. And also, he's going to feel the confidence against SELFLESS, who are right now struggling to really do much of anything. They've got a couple ultimates to work with. The Death Blossom and the Transcendence is available, but so far that payload is moving forwards. Finally, we'll see the Transcendence get popped there to try to delay this payload some. But Taimu's still completely unchecked so far in this fight.
Yeah, and here comes SELFLESS. They do pop the stop air. They're going to be more aggressive in the Envy. They want to try and make some stand right now. Taimu, though, having none of it, gets the kill on the Juvenile, helps Tailspin take out Michael 3D, and Tailspin will finish out the double kill as ENVYUS continues moving forward. SELFLESS struggling to get anything done right now.
And I feel like just the concept of ultimate charge is a really big issue for SELFLESS because they just don't have the ability to sustain themselves in engagements long enough that they can have ever an ultimate advantage seemingly. They of course do have just a, you know, a Deadeye right now, but that's not going to help them too much in this last phase alone.
No, I mean, usually teams are good about dealing with their solo Deadeye. Hey, if they get a flank and Iman comes in from the other side, they might be able to get it, but we'll see how it goes. Taimu right now just content to be poking them from low to high. And SELFLESS are going to have to make a move sooner rather than later here. Envy will engage them. Here they go.
We see the leap there coming in from the Winston. They are aware right now of the play that SELFLESS want to make, but again, they don't have much to work with. They're going to have to go for the dive right now, trying to use everything they can, but ENVYUS have a lot more to work with. The ultimates now, as you see the Death Blossom coming in from Tailspin, and it is frag after frag. The story will continue just as it started there for ENVYUS. Start to finish, and the payload will arrive. That is a very good time.
That is a blazingly fast time. That's about a time of about 3 minutes and 20 seconds. We have seen quicker on Dorado at points, but really not much. It's going to be a hard mission here for SELFLESS here on this first map. Not impossible, but man, do they have a tough road to go.
Yeah, and I mean, that first fight is really cool to see the way that Internet Hulk was, you know, using the D.Va to support Taimu. Taimu, of course, for the beginning, he did actually look like he was a little bit alone out there when he's trying to find that first pick off. But once he got it, straight in there was Internet Hulk with the D.Va, and then with the numbers advantage and splitting the defense as the payload was moving, it was just a situation that ENVYUS, they know how it's going to play out way ahead of it actually happening, and it feels like Selfless is so much more reactive in that sense that they're always going to be a little bit behind in those spots.
Yeah, if Selfless could have done anything there, I think maybe having a Winston on defense and just going out of the way to go on Taimu early, because you looked throughout that entire time, Taimu was definitely the main mover for Envy. He was getting a lot of good damage in from range. He was getting the pickoffs he needed to get, but a McCree on his own is not exactly mobile in escaping threats to get on him. So I feel like they could have really focused on him a little bit more, because Taimu was playing a little bit greedy there. But the problem is with a player like Taimu is that he's so good at hitting his shots that it's not even that much in the way of greed. Your window to punish is very small.
And it's the thing that you feel very confident in doing when you think, okay, the guys that we're playing against, not only do I feel like I'm much better of a player, I feel like if I mess it up, then because I feel like, you know, again, my team is so much better that it won't matter as much. The stakes won't be as high in that risk. So that's also a big deal going in. But it's also interesting from the perspective that we're seeing a lot of tracers come into play for the first point as well. And that's something that I really like, because they can get into the back lines very, very quickly, of course, with the blink. And that's something, of course, that, you know, a player like Taimu didn't really need in this situation, because he can just go and get the kills, and it's not necessarily about the distraction there.
Well, speaking of interesting right now, ENVYUS is definitely going in with what many people consider to be a bit of a gamble here. They're running Symmetra on defense. It's great if you get the teleporter up, but they are a little bit weaker on their first offensive point. Note, though, that a big orb did hit RobWiz pretty early on here, building some meter for Internet Hulk here. We'll see how that goes, but they have to be careful not to give up picks early on, because with the time of 3 minutes to beat here, they have to move quickly, and they probably want to take point A here on the first attack.
And it's always fun to see the Symmetra play situationally like this, and we'll see the push onto the payload there to stop it moving through the arch, as we see the Reinhardt going in with the shield there, just pushing them all the way back here, and it is Taimu who's dealing so much damage from up top there, finishing off everybody as they have a Reaper in their faces, in Tailspin to deal with. And once again, you know, the rest of the team, let alone Taimu, is so much to deal with. They can't quite get to him to stop him just DPSing for free at the back.
Well, here's where things have gone from bad to worse for Selfless. They must win the next fight, or they're not going to have enough time to get to the end, and the teleporter just came down from Internet Hulk, so they don't exactly have a whole lot else to work with here. They're going to have to win this the old-fashioned way. RobWiz almost getting taken out immediately. Juvenile does get the pick on the chips again, and here we go.
And that's a great way to attack it. They're trying to get into Taimu's face, pushing the high ground, trying to wrap around the side there, as we see Juvenile able to push down Taimu in the end, so that's going to be a big win. We can see Coco trying to hold down the fort there by the payload with the shield, but he needs support, and everybody's being spread out. Symmetra's going to have to try to do what she can there with the help of Tailspin, but he is alive there. The Death Blossom comes in, the discords are all over the place, and it looks like ENVYUS are actually doing a fairly good job here despite the start.
Yeah, and I'll note there that Chips died early in the fight, but because the teleporter was up, it wasn't anywhere near as impactful as it needed to be. That teleporter is a huge, huge deal right now. In fact, as you see Tailspin coming right back in, and now with a minute 38 left, it is not mathematically possible for Selfless to win this. They're going to have one good fight here just for Boral standing, but even if they win, it's not going well. But here they go, Sound Barrier on the way. RobWiz moving in, swinging his sword, not getting what he's looking for. Again, beat an enemy Sound Barrier instead. Envy still very healthy. Taimu countering here with the Deadeye. Not going to get what he's looking for. Does die the Iman. So it's a good attack by Selfless, but it's just too little, too late.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is pretty scary to see a team like ENVYUS in such form where they can dominate another top team, you know, so easily. I say top team, of course, you know, I guess you wouldn't consider Selfless in the top 8, but they are, of course, one of the more top teams in the Overwatch scene at the moment that are working quite hard. And it just goes to show quite how much there is, you know, to say for the skill dynamic, the shot calling dynamic, strategy, tactics, also how to play against the meta game that there is. And there's a lot of stuff right now that top teams aren't, I feel like I want to see more from. Like we were talking a lot in the green room about this high ground dynamic where RobWiz is right now. I feel like a lot of teams at the moment haven't really figured out how it really works. Like, is it really optimal to be set up there? If so, what is the best timing to drop in and so on? So
there is sort of this view by a lot of people when they look at games and go, oh, high ground is the best. It's not necessarily true. Depending on ult stats, you can do plenty of approaches where you don't take the high ground, bait people into dropping down and deal with them that way. It's not a guaranteed advantage. Michael 3D though, getting him at the ground sound surge here. Very end. Does take out Internet Hulk, so it's 2 kills here from Selfless. Unfortunately, look at that timer on the left. There 12 seconds remain, and time will officially over here in just a moment. And I'll say this for Selfless going against Envy in the next round. Envy's like an onion where you have to peel multiple layers. If they want to actually beat Envy, they have to figure out Taimu first and go from there. There's multiple people that they're going to have to deal with, but when Taimu is starting out so many fights with early picks, it's just really hard to focus on anything else.
Absolutely, and it's something that you see time and time again when a team has a little bit too much skill. It's like you can't make up for it from the strategy element. They're just kind of a class above, and that's just kind of how it works, unfortunately. I mean, we'll have to see how it works out in the future. Maybe they'll be able to find something. I mean, of course, they didn't have the best start. It was just, I mean, the initial pick-off from Taimu was very decisive in that it just snowballed into a very, very fast first take of the marketplace checkpoint. So I don't know. Do you think I'm trying to find something, ZP? I'm trying my best, but it's hard to find the hope.
There's not too much of a silver lining there for Selfless. I mean, in the end, they didn't have a whole lot of fights that went well for them. And as a result, it just showed in both their defense and their attack. So, again, I think for them, the biggest thing is they need to overcommit a little bit, try and deal with Taimu, and see make the rest of ENVYUS do some work to take them out. Because really, a lot of those fights were lost before they were even begun.
Yeah, and I mean, we're moving on to King's Row. And how do you feel? Again, I asked you at the beginning of Dorado, where are the points where a team could find edges against ENVYUS, using the map. So King's Row, where would be the weaknesses or the spots to look out for you?
So for King's Row, I mean, again, I think the issue is that they need to try and limit their exposure to the early pickoffs. I mean, if it means that they have to hide behind shield tanks a little bit more, just do anything they can to cheat against the hit scan mechanic. Make Envy beat you in another way than the way that they're accustomed to, because right now they're running more of a standard comp. It's really easy to poke into it, and frankly, Envy is a lot better at playing that sort of game, so Selfless might want to just look for any different approach to make Envy swap things up.
I mean, we have seen a lot of interesting approaches. I mean, today in the European broadcast, we saw the triple tank approach from Anox, and they typically used to like just trying to get the Winston deep in there and just follow up with the distraction and just going hard with the dynamic of Genji. But that was a different way to tackle the first point. Do you feel like ENVYUS will have the ability? Well, do you feel like ENVYUS will hold the first point here on the defense? Do you think that's likely?
Maybe it's likely. I would say it's holding on point A is still pretty darn hard, especially in King's Row, where the attackers, frankly, just get too many shots at it. The spawn point is right there. And for the defense, all it takes is just trading out badly. Trading out 1-to-1, that's bad. The defense needs to trade out 2-to-1, preferably 3-to-1, to really hold on first. And as good as Envy is, that's difficult to do over 4 minutes, but they are on the defense first, so we'll see if they can do that right here, right now.
And the cool thing as well is that we'll see Tailspin on the Junkrat. I was wondering perhaps if we might see, Symmetra or something, more interesting. Tailspin going for that Junkrat is definitely sometimes a little bit more novel, but situationally in the spots like this, it's very good. And it looks like Tailspin is going to insta-give Juvenile mid-air there. That's an interesting way to start it off.
There's a lot of players that are notable for playing a really good Junkrat King's Row. Not every team does it nowadays, but Tailspin is certainly up there. Tavik does it quite a bit from time to time. Seagull, even for NRG, has had good showings. And the reason is that Junkrat can sit here, pepper in the bombs, and make it so that if your offense does move for it, they're not doing it unscathed. Then you look at Tailspin, he already has a Riptire just about to be up here, needs a few more shots. And Selfless, as they move in, they're not moving very swiftly. Here comes Tailspin, owing on the flank.
Yeah, they do have a Zarya to eat up the free charge there on the shield, so we'll have to see how that works as a counter. But so far, it's Internet Hold picking up the kills here. Tailspin just getting loads of damage on the periphery with those grenades. So, yep, looking very easy at the moment right now for ENVYUS as they deflect the first attack. And hopefully for Selfless, they'll find an approach that will actually work here. And again, there are ways to play against the Junkrat. I mean, they have the Zarya. Yep. And Zarya is a nice way to begin that.
Well, one thing they're going to have to look out here for Zarya or not is that Riptire will be on the way here in just a moment. Taimu is going into the Deadeye, so Taimu might go the high ground for this to set this up in just a moment. Selfless, they do have an Earth Shower, so they're going to have to clutch on this and hope for an Earth Shower, but here they go, they're moving right in.
Yeah, and Juvenile can't really stand out there for too long due to the amount of damage coming in from the grenades here from the ENVYUS defense there. And looks like they're trying to find a way in. He's looking for a money Earth Shatter, but no one's really showing themselves. And the tire goes straight in, and that's really painful because Juvenile could have initiated so well potentially. He could just find an opening with that Earth Shatter, but he won't be able to do so as he gets eliminated straight away before his team can even do anything.
Right. Well, the one thing about the next fight is that we are going to see some fireworks. Both teams are getting up ults. Dak is going to have Sound Baron. Harry Hook will have Sound Baron. Transcendence is up. ENVYUS actually a little bit behind on the ult game here, so this is going to be Selfless's best window. There's 2 minutes left. If they burn all their ults here and they don't take the point, ENVYUS's odds of getting the point have gone way up, and here we go.
It's on to push in with the shield, but again, Tailspin just keeps the damage going. Oh, the Reaper just being able to go into Wraith form just to save himself for the last moment, but we are seeing multiple kills coming in here from Selfless. It's actually working right now. Fully charged Zarya as well, bearing down finally on a Tailspin that has no support to finally deflect damage and attention away from him. So, Selfless will be able to take the first point after all.
Yep, Selfless, they're going through, and that's why I mentioned early on, as good as Envy is, it's really rare to see teams do that. Selfless had a huge ult advantage going in. They didn't even have to use half of their arsenal. They were able to keep Graviton. They'll have that for the Streets phase. ENVYUS, of course, no slouch. They're going to have Riptire and Earth Shadow. So, again, it's going to be a relatively even fight moving in the Streets phase here. We'll see how it pans out. Going in, I think you give Selfless a slight edge on overall power, but based on just experience, I actually think Envy will take the next fight.
Still have Talisman sticking on that Junkrat for now. See how he'll use that tire, but we have the push coming in there, the Lucio speed boost to get Coco in close, but the Graviton Surge comes in, but it's going to be Internet Hulk and Chips as well, combining to just take down everybody. Right now, ENVYUS are making it look so easy.
ENVYUS went in there for multiple approaches. Of course, you had Hulk coming in from the back, did the Death Blossom, but everyone else was going at the same time, so even the Death Blossom didn't get too much done in terms of actual killing blows. The rest of ENVYUS would have been there for the immediate follow-up. The coordination there was absolutely great. The only downside for them is that they will have to deal with both Death Blossom and Transcend. With Selfless, they're going to have to make the most of this next approach as they speed right in.
And the High Noon is up there, so they can't really be too confident dropping the shield, but there's a High Noon of their own. Emong able to get Taimu with that one, as now the payload finally starts to move with the man advantage and the DPS gone from ENVYUS. Perhaps they can make this work as they push forwards, but Internet Hulk, he's providing a lot of DPS working around the payload with that shotgun, the double shotguns that he has, and now we're going to see the Death Blossom coming in from Rob Wiz, finds a perfect timing for it, and that is going to be the difference made, all with the pick of Taimu initially.
Yeah, and that's sort of what we were saying a little bit earlier about, you know, an Achilles heel for Envy. If you get on Taimu early, you do increase your odds of doing stuff just because Envy's so used to Taimu doing all sorts of ridiculous work early on. At least make the other parts work. Selfless is doing that right now. They're mostly through the Streets phase. Envy should have a last-ditch attempt here to contest, but it's not the worst for Selfless.
Yeah, it's starting to look better and better if they can keep the momentum going, absolutely. But now ENVYUS will be starting to set themselves up as they put the damage in there. We see another High Noon to just delay things, and you can see also into the Hulk just trying to just be really annoying. Reaper on Reaper action right there as Rob Wiz will teleport away, and we can see Emong trying to get in there with the flashbang. Gets two actually. These could be very crucial picks if they're able to get them. We'll see as a quick response. The ultimate's getting popped there to keep the team alive. As Internet Hulk, oh, he's going to find himself a great engagement there, and now ENVYUS are going to be pushing back wonderfully. That is gutting for Selfless.
Not only was that good, Internet Hulk, of course, came in, got the crushing double kill, but you take a look at the ultimate situation going forward. Next fight, Harry Hook has Sound Bearer, Selfless does not. ENVYUS has the potential to move this forward and keep the momentum going as they go in a little bit forward. We'll see if they can do that as they move back in onto point, or they defend the point, so we'll see how things go.
Yeah, Michael really does have that Graviton Surge, as we can see, and the other ultimate available is a Transcendence on Trini there, the Zenyatta of Selfless. Those are going to be two very, very important ultimates to combine there to get the push, working in to get the man advantage as they try to get on top of that payload. And just having to make the perfect engagement right now. They're looking for it as they start to get closer and closer. We'll see Telespin now with the Tracer finally off of that Junkrat, and he's going to be doing a lot of damage. And it looks like these ultimates are missing the mark a little bit here for Selfless. And from a positional standpoint, ENVYUS did quite well to begin with, but they will lose the battle overall. However, Tailspin still being very annoying.
Tailspin and Internet Hulk could bring this back. Unfortunately for Tailspin, Hulk just went down, so any delay he does is going to be at the risk of his own life. He's going to move in here with Coco. They're going to go for the last-ditch attempt. Michael 3D fully charged up, is going to get taken out. Taimu has rejoined the fight, and Envy has a real shot of continuing to hold here. Here comes Pulse Bomb in the back, not going to connect. But Taimu is there with the backup, and Envy should be able to push this back.
Tailspin and Internet Hulk, as you said, they're doing so much work at the moment. The Discord on Emong, that's perfect. Oh, Sound Barrier coming in just in the nick of time to save Emong, but how long will he stay alive as Tailspin again? It's just no one seems to notice him. He's just zipping in and out all over the place there with the rewind. Finally, can he get the finish? It looks like he will, and still another Pulse Bomb available. The Tailspin finally dies to Rob Wiz as he pops the Death Blossom, but that took so much work, but the payload begins to move again.
You know, in a sense for Tailspin at the end there, all his friends were dead at the very end. He probably was going to hold there. The fact that Rob Wiz felt the need to blow Death Blossom there shows just how much of a trouble Selfless is having to deal with ENVYUS right now. Now, they do have 2 minutes left to finish this out. That gives them about 2-3 pushes to finish out the game. So Selfless has options, but ENVYUS is fully low on ultimates, and Internet Hulk is about to explode if he gets right up to it. The Earth Shadow comes in from Coco. Rob Wiz looking for Libor. Tailspin gets in the back line and has a double kill.
And right now it's going to be Juvenile who dies straight away, and that's really important because he was the guy with the Earth Shadow, which is so incredibly key moving into that last point. And ENVYUS, they just expand straight back out towards the spawn there just to try to pick off any stragglers who are trying to retreat, trying to flee to regroup for the next attack. But as you mentioned, ZP, there's only maybe 1 or 2 of those attacks left. And what does Selfless have to work with? I mean, Juvenile, he still has the Earth Shadow, there's still the Graviton Surge, but I mean, it looks like the fight will be taken straight to them at spawn as ENVYUS once again push out.
Internet Hook was able to drop down, drop the Death Blossom, effectively killed 2. And now for Selfless, this is the final go with a minute 15 left. They're going to invest all their ults into the next fight. If they do not win the fight, that is going to be it. ENVYUS will almost certainly have a hold here on last and will be setting themselves up perfectly to win this map. Michael 3D though coming in, Graviton surges out, gets 2 members in. Here comes the fall.
And this is all about the ultimate timing there. Chili with his Transcendence for Selfless, waiting for the perfect moment as the ultimates of his opponent's team was wearing off, and looks like it might be helping out right now. But again, Taimu with that McCree, a little bit unchecked, but finally his front line is gone, so there's nothing to stop him from going down there, as all the focus will find him. But looks like this could actually work out. There is still time here for ENVYUS to try to scramble back onto that point, but they may be a bit staggered here.
The one upside for ENVYUS here is that they do have a window where they will have Sound Bearer and Selfless will not. They're going to use that right now. We're going to see Harry Hook open for the Sound Bearer, and they're going to roll right in. And for Selfless, it allows on Juvenile. He must hit a good Earth Shower here as ENVYUS rushes back in.
It is indeed a lot about this Earth Shadow disabling multiple opponents will be what he's trying to look for. Like, oh, it's going to whiff. Unfortunately, it's very hard to try to find that perfect timing, but he's going to charge down the opposition's Reinhardt there, and it's going to be a lot of chaos with Taimu there. He's found himself a very poor position, but Emong's able to get in there with a flashbang to eliminate him, and getting rid of him is very, very important, but still, ENVYUS are on top of this.
Yeah, ENVYUS on top of this. Emon coming in big though, was able to take out Taimu towards the end. It's now in overtime at the point, but ENVYUS not at all secure. They need to do a little bit more. The ground talk comes in from Michael 3D, grabs 3 takers. Internet Hulk though does not care, does defense matrix, shields Taimu enough for Emon to go down. It's gonna be 2 extra kills here from the side of Envy, and Envy doing their best to hold this back. Selfless a bit on the ropes as Taimu is still doing all sorts of work in the back line.
And surely they must be able to secure it at this point. It's looking so good for the defense on the action, and it looks like they're just going to be able to save it in the end. Wow, ENVYUS, I mean, Selfless has some great play there. I mean, you can see, but it felt like every time ENVYUS were able to get a slightly winning situation, they didn't just take an inch, they would just take a mile every time, just pushing out so much more.
Yeah, and that's one of those situations where it really is a case that Envy, they punish mistakes hard, and that's just a trend from very top teams. Now, there are a few top teams that actually are more inconsistent than they actually ought to be. Teams like We United, FaZe, as they are right now, they have high highs and low lows. But your really established top teams, your ENVYUS's, your Rogues, your C9s, they're very good. Actually, Rogue is a weird case. They actually have cases where they've messed up, but clearly that wasn't the case in person at the showdown in the last weekend. So it does vary a bit.
Yeah, and I mean, the cool thing for me with Rogue as well, especially, is that I guess some people wouldn't be familiar with some of the LAN or the offline pedigree of some of those players. Like AKM, he won an ESWC when he was 16 and wins. You know, his brother has won multiple LANs in multiple games over the course of more than a decade. So they're very, very, very experienced, and they lend that to their entire team. And ENVYUS, of course, maybe don't have quite as much offline pedigree as they would, and that is something that, once they start getting that confidence rolling, that's going to be really interesting to see how their dynamic works. But I'm just excited that we're getting more and more top teams coming in, especially for some of the European names starting to prop up.
No, definitely. Talent's coming to the scene all the time. And just to touch on the Envy note, a lot of people see team houses as a holy grail, and Envy, of course, was the first team in a team house. But you look at their performance on LAN, they definitely lost a step compared to what they really did here online. So Envy, they're probably looking to fix those things as time goes on. We'll have to see. But for right now, a little bit of technical difficulties, waiting for everyone to get back in the game, and should be back in just a moment.
So, I mean, ENVYUS, we expect them to complete, more or less, right? I mean, is there a reality where that doesn't happen?
There is a reality where it doesn't happen, but Selfless is going to have to play out of their minds and hope for some very, very good luck. I will say that. It's one of those things where if Selfless does not make any mistakes and ENVYUS makes uncharacteristic mistakes, say maybe Taimu goes way too aggro, which Taimu really doesn't do unless he's killing an entire team, barring something like that, Selfless is in deep trouble here because Envy almost always will complete a map like Kings Row. It's very rare that actually, for most teams, get held on Kings Row, period, let alone a team like ENVYUS. So Selfless, they're going to have to dig deep if they want to stay alive here in the series. And just so people know what's at stake here, should ENVYUS win, ENVYUS will book their ticket to Atlanta, and they will join Misfits there. Or sorry, Anox there.
Yeah, they're pretty huge stakes. And one thing I want to ask you about actually regarding King's Row, I mean, of course, the metagame is evolving all the time. We get patches which update the heroes, and it changes how people interpret how the game should be played. And ENVYUS are one of the leaders in defining how the metagame will look, because they'll show people, okay, this is what we're doing, and we're beating everyone with it. So we have the minds for the game. This is how it works, and people will start copying them, and that's how the metagame will start to form. So how would you like to see a King's Row from them? Because we're seeing a more tanky style, I think a rushdown style onto the point with just a lot of meat, essentially.
I think for Selfless, the best things that they could do here would probably be a very highly aggressive defense overall, where they throw Envy off guard. Envy, in terms of just dealing with normal defenses that are trying to buy time, they're pretty experienced with that. If Selfless really went out of their way to do crazy flanks and stuff that Envy hasn't seen before, and also execute on it, maybe it's a thing. However, it's still going to be very, very difficult to go for the full hold. Not impossible, but definitely rough.
And one of the reasons why I kind of like on King's Row the kind of triple tank opening in that we saw earlier is because it feels like you can always get value out of Genji, but a Tracer and a McCree, they don't have much to work with as far as their innate advantages are concerned when it comes to the geometry of the map. And if you're getting a McCree into a position where he's doing something, he's at a lot of risk himself in the very first stage. So it's that's one of the reasons why I really love that triple tank style. There's a lot to work with there in that sense. So that's I hope to see it. But what do you think would be a good response to that? Because we saw Anox play that again in Europe, and they crushed with it.
Yeah, triple tank, I mean, clearly one of the components of dealing with triple tank is not everyone runs on defense, but certainly having a Reaper on defense is a great thing in terms of shredding tanks. One is Zenyatta. And then it's a matter of, okay, what can we put in there that we think is going to do the most damage? Multiple options that you could throw in there. Sometimes you do even run a Genji, although it's not the greatest against triple tank.
Yeah.
Tracer actually not as bad as people might think at times just because of Pulse Bomb. But in general, teams deal with it okay, but sometimes it can't catch them off guard.
So when it comes to ENVYUS, let's say we have some new viewers or people who are new to Overwatch. What is impressive individually about? Of course we talk about timing. We saw him with McCree, but if you're talking about more the support roles, let's say, what is something that some of the support players are able to do that other support players aren't able to get value from?
So one thing in Overwatch is that when a support player is doing well, you don't really call them out a whole lot. You don't really go, oh man, Chipsjin was out of position. He did something wrong. You don't go, oh, Internet Hulk really overengaged. He messed something up. Their core of tanks and supports is actually incredible. And you think about previous subs they had, their old team IDDQD way back earlier in the game. They were absolutely dominant with two different DPS players at one point. There was a point where instead of Taimu and Tailspin, you had Tavik, of course a great DPS player, and Mendo Kusai, who's been team hopping all around since then. But they were also a #1 team, also on a ridiculous streak. So it's easy to sort of glorify Taimu and Tailspin a lot when looking at this ENVYUS roster. But the reality is that their tank and support core is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, of course, that's the setup. That's how it works. They elevate them to do that. It's really interesting as well because, for example, when you look at, keep bringing Anox up because they played earlier, but also Cooler is the guy that is, again, a legendary Quake player, very, very good mechanically, one of the best tournament players from deathmatch games probably of all time. He's got an amazing pedigree, but he's the dedicated Lucio, and I find this very interesting. And how much value do you think you can get out of a Lucio? Do you think that it caps off at a certain point? Like, okay, you understand position, you got good map awareness, you can hit some headshots and skate around the map and be unseen. Is that where the buck stops? Or
well, talking with players like Minstrel, who does play Lucio for Team Liquid and is one of the most experienced Lucios in the game, he actually complains and says he feels skill capped. I don't know if that's the case, but some players definitely think that. Going to your question. But it's not too rare to see teams or players that were known for great FPS prowess playing support. Dehang, of course, storied FPS history. On Mercy. Yeah, he's on Mercy.
When I saw that, I was
yeah. The bottom line for Overwatch is that not everyone can be the DPS superstar. It's just not how the game works. And it's part of why a lot of the early teams that had tons of Quake superstar towns, like, oh man, this team is legendary. They're going to do well. Nope, they don't do well. They get knocked out before semifinals. So it's been a learning process where Quake in particular is interesting just because Quake players have had probably the roughest time in Overwatch relative to all the other FPS groups. Not calling it out specifically, but it has been a thing.
Yeah, it's definitely quite an interesting dynamic. And actually, speaking of Dehang, Rafa's obviously now in the mix as well. Perhaps the best Quake jeweler with Cypher, I guess. They had quite an interesting rivalry over the last few years, but he's jumped into the mix as well. It's quite interesting seeing how that dynamic works because, of course, as well, like you get all these you get, you know, people saying certain things whereby, you know, Quake is the best game or something, or this is the best game, or this needs more skill, or that needs more skill, and kind of like alluding to your previous point there, where you're talking about this is just the way the game works, is that, you know, you have to support your players, and that is an organic process, and it changes, and you need to have almost a mind meld, actually, with some people. We saw that earlier, actually, again, with Anox, with Kenzie, and with the Zenyatta. He was the Zenyatta.
Rubicon.
Yes, Rubicon with Kenzie and Rubicon. Of course, that you always have to understand the positioning of the Zenyatta in that spot. You know, what is his line of sight? You know, I'm zipping all over the place because I'm Tracer, but I have to know how he's playing to know how to maximize the value that he's trying to give me. One
interesting thing about online games in general, and this isn't even Overwatch specific, but literally in general, is that anytime you get a game to low, it's an esport, and players are putting 12 hours a day or more into learning the game, people will find ways of extracting skill and crazy ways of being better at the game than you could expect. So not so much Overwatch, but just in general, players are like, oh, this game is easy, etc. No game is easy when you have players that are as dedicated as they are in the sense of Overwatch or other games. I mean, it's just, you must bring it. Teams are going to find ways of just beating you, and it's just a thing. So whether it be you're coming from Quake or whatnot, you have to treat Overwatch with the utmost respect and really put a lot of time in.
It's just something that's a bit different to what people are used to or what they quite expect, I think. I think that's like a big deal. And we are just filling a little bit here because we have a slight delay before concluding this matchup, or maybe not concluding it if Selfless were able to have a somewhat miraculous comeback. Although, you know, they were able to, well, they didn't quite complete. They almost got there. Almost got there. But that's also an interesting perspective as well, because even from a character's perspective of like a Lucio, of course, Lucio's just building ultimate meter is like incredibly important, and he's not often in the spots to be able to hit the shots, or like hitting shots is difficult with a Lucio. So that there is, you know, obviously a lot of skill in that sense as well. And if you can stay alive longer, have better position, you get more chances to do that. So there is depth, you know, in the support players, of course.
And you see on the tank level, certainly characters like Zarya, a great example of DPS skill really moving over, where you look at a player like CoolMat69, who was once known as having one of the most fearsome McCree and Reapers in the game, and just general hit scan overall. But he's taken a character like Zarya and really made it his own. Sure, he's getting good shields off and all the rest, but he's finding a way to take or get better energy and do more damage than most Zarya. So it's just like, wait, there was no Zarya ult, and that Zarya just got 2-3 kills. And that's a level of min-maxing that you don't see from a whole lot of players. So regardless of the role in Overwatch, there's usually ways of making things better. I know Lucio players sometimes get all the way back to the original. Lucio players get a little bit salty, but really the reality is that there's so many different ways of expanding your skill cap and going a little bit further.
So what about Hanzo's skill cap?
Hanzo.
That's like your trigger. So
right now I'm just stuck here between discussing Hanzo rationally and just becoming a pillar of salt. It's just the worst feeling in the world. Like, I understand that, you know, spam from Hanzo, like there's counters and it's, you know, there's ways of getting around it, but man, it is the worst feeling in the world when you round a corner and just get headshot. It is the worst, especially if you're playing something like Tracer. Like, I'm darting around. Oh, the Hanzo was trying to shoot someone else and I died.
Yeah.
That's salt meter plus. So I'm not sure I'm capable of rationally discussing Hanzo. I do know on the pro level, some players are like very mixed. Is like, oh, Hanzo's gonna be good next patch. I don't know how I feel about this, but we'll see how it goes. Obviously, players, including myself, sometimes knee-jerk a little bit.
I guess from one perspective too. I mean, the cool thing with the game is that there's always, like, I mean, all the heroes can be used situationally. There is always actually value you can find. Of course, with Hanzo, it's like, it's so frustrating because it feels like your death is out of your hands. Like like I couldn't have done something better to like change the outcome here. It's just my hand is, you know, in some of in the fate of someone else. But yeah, so that's I can see that. But I think we'll take a quick break right now because we're not too sure how long this delay will last, but we'll keep you guys updated. But stay tuned. We'll be back as soon as possible here for more from the Overwatch Open between ENVYUS and Selfless. See you in a moment.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back here with the Overwatch Open. Apologies for the delay. Unfortunately, one of the players had a computer update midway through the match, but luckily we were able to adapt to that. We're going into the second round here on Kings Row. For those who didn't catch what happened on the first round, Selfless nearly completed against ENVYUS. They were right close to the edge. They did not quite get it there, and now the victory condition for ENVYUS is simple. Complete the map outright, and they will be the victors, and they will secure their spot to Atlanta.
Well, you say complete the map. I mean, they got 69 point, was it 18? 69.18?
Yeah.
So there's a little room maybe to not complete, you know, but pretty much, I guess.
Just a tiny bit.
Oh my god, we got some Hearthstone.
Yeah, the Shaman player. I don't know what that means. It might mean that whoever is actually up in here is a terrible person. I mean, they could be a hunter, which would be way worse, but we'll just leave that to the side as both teams are setting up, and it is going to be Envy on the attack here. And this is a rare case where for second round, Red will be attacked because we did have to remake the lobby.
Well, Envy are going to be using their best rush deck, but that's going to be stopped there by the Maywall, which is really nice because they're able to separate Tank from the rest of his friends, and that's going to slow things down quite significantly there for ENVYUS. But I have no doubt that they will find a way in eventually, Maywall or no.
Here's the thing about May on this point. Generally, I do like the switch ups to May every now and then. Michael 3D plays a good May. The problem is that the respawns are so close here that, all right, you caught ENVYUS off guard and you won one quick team fight Kings Row. Well, only a little over 30 seconds have passed, and now they have their next team fight, and they're going in such a way that your May wall can't do anything, and they are rushing right in.
Yeah, they are loving this. They cannot be denied at the moment. Taimu, yes, he's going to get taken down immediately by Michael 3D, by the May. That's actually very, very important. We described how crucial that is. And in fact, ENVYUS will actually be backing away at the moment. Can't quite find the engagement or the pick that they need to open it up, to go for a committed push. And there will be a lot of poking here. Looks like we'll have Selfless finding a way in, and they're going to find more than just that. The flashbangs, and we have the Earth Shadow combining for a triple frag. And that's a beautiful, opportunistic approach there from Selfless, finding the moment.
Selfless has been doing really, really well here on these first two pushes. The only thing that's a little bit sad for them is that it's Kings Row, where it's so hard to actually hold on point A. I think if this were at a map where you could actually have a better chance of holding point A, like Dorado, they'd be in much better shape. Unfortunately, look at the time. Only a minute 30 has gone off the clock, and Envy is going to have really good opportunities here to smoke. Luckily, Selfless, though, take a look at RobWiz. He does have Death Blossom at the ready, and he has the ability to really put ENVYUS on the back foot here if he's able to get the proper flank and not die to this Deadeye. So let's see what happens. Here we go.
Yeah, great zoning from both sides. They're using those Deadeyes to delay, and now it's all going to be going down as the attack onto the point has commenced. But that's a great flashbang. Tailspin just able to get into Ray form to get out of there in time, and we still see the Reinhardt shield there. Not for long as it gets thrown away from the point, and the Transcendence comes in there for ENVYUS to keep themselves in the fight. But the Maze ultimate is going to be freezing some players. Tailspin, will he actually get focused down here? Looks like he's still alive somehow. Tailspin, he's going to be in a great position to get the damage in. As we can see now, the Death Blossom comes in, so Tailspin being able to survive in this position has meant the world there for ENVYUS. And
slowly but surely, ENVYUS is taking this point. It's one of those things where you look at the attrition. People that die early, they're able to get back on the point a little bit quicker. It's why this point is so hard to actually hold. For Selfless, it's not a bad way of buying time. The problem for Selfless is that they have to hold for so incredibly long. Normal circumstances, if they set a quicker time, this would be great. Unfortunately, they weren't even able to complete the map. So Envy, despite somewhat of a rough start, is still very much in the driver's seat here as they take the streets phase, and they're trading off very favorably.
Oh yeah, I mean, we just had three players go down there for Selfless, staggering them quite significantly. That should allow the payload to move unhindered for quite a good portion there of the streets, the middle area of Kings Row. We'll have to see when Selfless can next mount an attack to try to stop the payload from moving. But as you say, right now it does look really nice for ENVYUS. They're starting to find that smooth movement. And they also have the Graviton Surge from Internet Hulk, and you know that ultimate alone in these confined spaces is going to really have a lot of value.
The one thing they do have to look out for here is RobWiz's Death Blossom. They have no defensive ultimates that deal with the chips. While Close Transcendence does not have it yet, RobWiz, again, is going to have an opportunity to put ENVYUS on the back foot. They lose this fight, they're going to lose second. Internet Hulk moving in, the Graviton surges out. He grabs three people from it, looking for a little bit of follow-up, and Tailspin is his man. Tailspin gets the double kill, makes it a triple, and Envy is going to roll this right to second point.
Yeah, fantastic attack there. ENVYUS able to also predict exactly the kind of plays, as you were talking about, with knowing that RobWiz would be very dangerous with that Death Blossom. They're able to find a player to pressure his position as he would want to drop down to deny him as the main push comes in from the Graviton Surge. Again, one of the reasons why ENVYUS is such a top-tier team showing great cognizance and team play to disable the situations where it could go wrong. And that's a question they're always asking, you know, where can we lose the situation and then we'll deal with it. But the push continues to move in now as we see the Reinhardts battering shields into one another. And it's looking really nice here for ENVYUS and their approach as the ultimates start to drop. But Selfless have a massive ultimate advantage as we start to see.
Yep, they do burn that ultimate advantage, trying to make it through. They do get 2 quick kills to start off. Internet Hulk, though, not to be denied, is fully charged up as Zarya. Will get taken out by Iman at the very end. And you take a look, Envy is starting to get pushed back a bit, but for Selfless, the goal is so long for their hold here. They have to hold for another 4 minutes and 30 seconds here on King's Row West. That is a tough situation. They do. Rob was still the loaded gun, still has Death Blossom at the right. We'll see if he's able to do something with that as Tailspin gets one shot by Michael 3D.
Coco just deep in there, he gets discorded as well as focused down, and eventually he will be finished off by Emong as he just gets pot shots over the top of the payload there, and his head showing a very nice use of the payload there to, I mean, wow, okay, Time is actually going to find him. A pixel there is all he needs to work with as we get Internet Hulk looking to push forwards there. Almost max energy, he's got that Graviton Surge. He's very dangerous. He can create so much space for his team and buy so much distance for the payload.
IMU was able to get a double kill there, and they're really keeping the momentum going. Selfless did have an ultimate advantage, but Rob Wiz has yet to really get a good death boss in this entire game. He needs to do something soon. Internet Hulk going to the back once more. Graviton surges out, picks up another 3 people. Iman, though, is able to defend, takes out Internet Hulk right away. Rob Wiz coming in the back line. It's 2 kills here from the defense, and the push in from Internet Hulk maybe not going to work out the way Envy had liked.
They are almost there, though. A mere 4 or 5 meters, and that's all they need. Well, Wizard will try to push them forwards, though, but taking a bit too much damage, bit off a bit more than he could chew. Will retreat with the Wraith form, but as will ENVYUS as well. Retreating, regrouping, rallying to the next offense. As we see Selfless trying to do what they can, but they have no ultimates to use, and there is a Transcendence for ENVYUS. This is so dangerous as they move into the final push, potentially.
ENVYUS is able to get the quick pick to start this out. Michael 3D is down, 65, now 64. Coco wins the Reinhardt battle. 3 kills here for Envy, and they just need a little bit more, and they are going to be going to Atlanta. The prize is just about theirs. They're rolling it in. D.Va will not get there in time. And ladies and gentlemen, Envy will see you in Atlanta.
Great performance. What we expected as well. Would you say that there's any real highlights here for Selfless? Any saving graces, perhaps, that you noticed?
Selfless came in strong at the very beginning. I think they got more mileage off the Mei than maybe they should have. It does show that it's a good pocket card that they have. Unfortunately, the problem with Mei is that teams can deal with her over time. It's one of those things where you can catch a team off guard, but then you have no easy way of switching in the field, so eventually they are going to get pushed that deals with it. Still, it was admirable by Michael 3D. It was a good first-point defense. Unfortunately for Selfless, they weren't able to replicate the intensity of that first-point defense on second or last.
James, you're back with us. We saw what we expected. I mean, what did you think of the performance there?
Well, it was very, very dominant by Envy, especially the first map. Both sides were just complete train wreck by, and it was Envy driving the train, wrecking the other team. I think on both maps, when the payload started to move for Envy, it barely stopped moving at all. A little bit, it stopped it in the second map. And there was a good defense at the beginning on that first point of the last map we saw there. But and Taimu was shut down early, but then once he got going, and his teammate as well, which one did I write down? Tailspin. Tailspin and Taimu, double T's. Once they got going, like there were many points where there were maybe 4 or 5 people on fire for the Envy side. And when you've got 4 or 5 people on fire on one team, then your house is probably on fire if you're the people on the other side. So I mean, it was just a roller coaster from Envy, and there were no breaks, unfortunately, for their opponents.
Taimu and Tailspin, they're the Bash Brothers of ENVYUS. There's no other way of saying it. They go in, you deal with one, you have to deal with the other. And that was a good case where Taimu maybe had a little bit of a rough start. Tailspin was able to pick up the slack, and they went from there. And it shows that Envy is definitely a rougher team to actually deal with overall. But for Selfless, I mean, again, they did have a good showing in Splice. They have something to work with. But clearly, if they want to take on the very top teams in the game, they have work to do.
We've got the Republic of Gamers. Incredible play of the game. And surely it's going to be an Envy play, but who's your money on?
Those are my one. I would say Taimu definitely had some good plays. We'll see if that's actually what goes, because it was a lot of double kills, not a whole ton of triple kills, but it's always, it's a mystery. We'll have to see. It's Internet Hulk.
It's Internet Hulk, so let's see what he got up to on this occasion. Savage violence all over the place. Very nice work from him, and I mean, he did put in some great moments as well. can't be forgotten, Internet Hulk. I mean, you know, we've got a double T's taking a lot of the limelight, but Internet Hulk put in some good work as well.
It's always fun with the Reapers as well, because one of the moments is it can be really high risk, of course, because you can give a lot of mileage to the other team if you take an aggression. Let's say you have there's a lot of battling backwards and forwards, and let's say there's like 3 or 4 players like left alive, like pushing that point. They might feel like the opposition is like retreated to regroup, but maybe that Reaper's there creeping along with a support somewhere. And if you find that drop, like I think we saw from Internet Hulk a couple times, you just turns it on its head there.
Well, the scary thing when you have Internet Hulk on a DPS and you still have Tailspin and Taimu on DPS, right, is that you want to go in and go, we have to deal with Taimu, which is we talked about a lot. But guess what? If you're dealing with Taimu and you're putting all this focus on those DPS players, you're not really thinking about Reaper flanks or Reaper coming in, and that does open up Internet Hulk for big plays. There's absolutely no doubt about it.
Right, so hopefully we will have an interview coming up shortly. But before that's ready, do you think anyone can stop Envy in Atlanta, Dan?
I think absolutely. I mean, of course, we're going to get a lot of top teams qualifying already. We've seen Envy get stopped. Their streak was broken at the offline event that we saw recently, the Atlantic Showdown by Rogue. And I think there's more where that came from, because there is still quite a lot of time for teams to develop and adjust. And Envy have shown, I mean, maybe there's a chink in the armor, like that they're maybe not invulnerable, and that actually has a lot of value in of itself. So I definitely feel like not only are they at risk to teams like Rogue, but there should be others as well, I think.
Well, one thing we see here is clearly Rogue plays up in person. When you have these offline events where players are there in person, Rogue, they have the experience, they can play up to a much higher level. Whereas, by comparison, you take a look at Envy. Envy clearly played a little bit down. Now, Envy, I'm sure that's on their list of things, okay, we need to improve on this. Things we did in terms of preparation, things we did in terms of handling the event. I'm sure they're going to come in with a different approach. They're going to be one of the top contenders for sure, the way things are. But I would not underrate Rogue. I would not underrate C9 or any of the other like big competitors that are going to be going there that really can bring it at land on the right circumstances. C9, of course, they do have a little bit to prove land-wise, but I have faith that they will actually fix some of their problems by the time Atlanta rolls around, if they qualify, which there's a good chance they will.
So in that match, we saw some Junkrat, we saw some Symmetra. Now, are those arrogant picks against an expected weaker opponent, or are they reasonable picks?
Totally reasonable. Symmetra is something that Internet Hulk has done quite a bit on Dorado. It's a great effect. There is a bit of a gamble there. There's no doubt about it, where if Internet Hulk was on something else, like, say, a Reaper or something with a little bit more damage, it's better for the first defense. But Envy is so good at finding early pickoffs to really buy Hulk a little bit of time that it makes her defense stronger if he gets a teleporter up. Junkrat, lots of teams do like running it from time to time. It's just that not every team has a great Junkrat like Tailspin that can really make it effective, and other teams find it easier to go to the bread and butter. But in that case, Point A and Kings Row, Junkrat is great. And
also, you get a situation where, for example, another similar pick, you might see, Torpion on Numbani or something like that. Something that's a little bit more unorthodox. But if the opposition kind of runs into it without kind of realizing exactly what's up, and they kind of overcommit a little bit, all of a sudden you got one team who has had like a crushing first wave defense, and then they have an ultimate advantage, and then things get like that first point suddenly becomes significantly more difficult. So I guess there can be a lot of value there that we've seen from a lot of top teams.
I think we can have a look at the bracket now and see where the standings are after today's action in North America. We can see that Envy will be qualifying into, they'll be off to Atlanta. And Selfless, not out of it yet. So this needs to be updated a little bit, but Selfless, not out of it yet. They will still be fighting on to try and make it in future days here at the Overwatch Open. So, any highlights from today's action between Europe and North America? Perhaps Europe for you, since some of your Quake buddies were playing?
I think Anox absolutely showed up, because the matchup against Misfits, I mean, it was a rematch of the finals that we had in the first week of qualifiers, and that was frankly a really, really good matchup. It was in this week where Anox suddenly showed kind of the skill that we all thought that they might actually have to put together, with all the talent that we know that they have and the experience, and they played out of their skin. But Misfits found a way to actually beat them in a super close game, and we saw another really close game between them and Misfits. But it was a new Anox, actually, not the kind of stagnant Anox that I expected. But we also saw that there's more talent on the team than maybe some people would put the focus on. Like, we saw that dynamic going on between Kenzie and Rubicon, and just they looked much more of like a team. And Misfits didn't play badly by any account. So I think Anox was and Kenzie in particular, as the kind of guy who was put in the position to do well. He's really stepped up.
Anox definitely had parts where they were just playing out of their minds overall over the course of the day. They're definitely the story of the night. There's no doubt about it. NA sort of went about the way we were expecting, but Anox coming out and doing that well against a team like Misfits, really having a breakout performance by players like Kenzie, it was a good showing. Now, the question is for Anox is that we did see them have a Cinderella week before where they didn't quite get to the top, but they played way above, and then they sort of fell off after. The challenge for Anox is, can they keep the level of consistency that they had tonight later on as we get deeper in the tournament, as we get to Atlanta? And that's going to be their real challenge.
Okay, that's going to bring our Overwatch Carnage to a close for today. We will be back tomorrow with more European and North American Overwatch, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you follow the channel and follow OverwatchOpen on Twitter as well. We will all see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching.